Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Deathlock Podcast, episode number 12 here. We got a lot to talk about. It's been a couple weeks since we've been live. Again, welcome to the show. If you guys are watching the replay, if you guys can smash the like button, comment down below your thoughts and opinions on the topic for today, and we'll get this going. So, how's it going, Tito?
We got lots to talk about.
Yeah, so again, it's been a minute since we've been live. Obviously we all have our lives. So, yeah, I know your kids just got back into school recently. Hopefully, everything's going good with that. Just work, man.
Yeah. Where are we sitting at as far as subscriber count?
So as of right now, we are sitting at 96 subscribers on the channel. So I believe that the person that you told me was being a part of the channel subscribed. So that's good.
Hey, Joys of San Joaquin Valley is in here, man. Thank you for coming in, bro. Appreciate it.
What's up? We got Joyce. How's it going, man? AKA Michael L. What's up, man? How's it going?
Yeah, but you know what? Things have been kind of interesting. I posted a side note away from wrestling. I posted a story on Instagram because like yesterday I was so irritated picking up my daughter from high school.
Mm-hmm.
There was like 4 high schools in her district. Someone called each of the schools and made a threat to it. So like Phoenix police was all over their schools, man. And I was like, they locked down the school. I was just telling my daughter was getting mad. She was scared. She was like, she was asking me if anyone's on campus with a weapon. I'm like, I don't know, but the SWAT team was at the school and everything, and she's like getting mad. She's like, her classmates are acting dumb and being loud. I'm like, yeah, I get it. When you're worried about something like that, you need to be quiet. Like, you can't be like screaming and turning on the flashlight on your smartphone and waving it, like trying to attack the attention if there was someone on campus.
Mm-hmm.
You just made yourself a target. Like, so I'm just like, but she's okay though. She's good.
Yeah.
Everything's good on that.
Yeah. I saw your post on that, and I'm glad everything, I guess, turned out okay, right? Nothing really happened, right? You said it was just you know what threat, right?
Yeah, it was just a threat, and then they didn't find anything. Other than that, watching Clash in Paris, and then the follow-up Monday Night Raw, and I got some feelings, and I see this story working. If it's making me feel a certain type of way, then the story's working. Because man, am I irritated with Becky Lynch, as well as Seth Rollins. Like, all
right. So for context, let's talk about what's actually happening here. Where it started first at Clash in Paris, right? So obviously we know that CM Punk has been feuding with Seth Rollins since SummerSlam, right? He got screwed over. He won the title from Gunther. They've just been going back and forth, not just since SummerSlam, but honestly since his return, right? They've been very verbal that they don't like each other. They don't have a thing for each other. They literally dislike each other in and outside of the ring. So that's been going on. Obviously, Seth Rollins cashed in his Money in the Bank, and obviously it's been personal for Punk since then. But at Clash of Paris, main event, right? Fatal 4-way, which I didn't think anything like this was going to happen, first of all, right?
I did. I had a feeling that was going to happen.
Okay, so first off, I knew in some sense that Punk wasn't going to win, right? I knew that was going to happen, right? And I knew that after, Bronson Reed, Braun Breaker got banned from the arena, that there was going to be some sort of interference, right? I thought, okay, Seth Rollins is just going to, hire a gun, you know what I mean? Or something, whatever you want to say there, right? Maybe he'll bring in somebody from NXT, possible. I know they have that little group that's kind of like a reminder of the Shield a little bit, right?
Yeah.
I don't know if you're aware of that or not, but there's like a wannabe Shield like going on NXT, right? And then, or somebody else, someone that could possibly benefit from helping out Seth Rollins and possibly joining his group, right? But in the end, we get Becky Lynch, right? So towards the end, obviously, CM Punk was about to give Seth Rollins his second GTS, right? And it was like a perfect setup, right? Seth Rollins falls on him after the first one. He lands right on Punk's shoulders again after, slumping over. And Punk is smiling. He's like, yep, this is it, right? And then boom, like 2 seconds later, someone comes in, again, hoodie mask or whatever you want to call it. all in black. And as soon as I saw, I was like, no, like I know who this is because it's like like Rey Mysterio size type person.
Rey Mysterio.
So I'm just telling myself, God, it's Becky, isn't it? Yep. And then I see the low blow. Punk gets screwed over. Seth pins Punk for the 1-2-3, and we get that, and I'm like, okay, let's see what happens on Monday, right? Obviously, there's some sort of like aggression there, and maybe she was just backing up her husband, right? I didn't really think more into it, right? But then we get to Monday Night Raw. Yeah. I don't know. Do you want to take over there, or do you want me to continue there?
I mean, yeah, we get to Monday Night Raw, and like I said, it makes me feel a certain way, which I know this story is gonna work. The fact that people were expecting Becky Lynch to just kind of like just go in there and make it all about backing up her husband, which it kind of was, but it really wasn't. It was she conveyed it was also personal to her with his return, making it about that. When she had matches, no one cared about her because they were chanting, Punk's name during her matches, making her feel like she was unwanted, irrelevant, So she kind of, gave something that people were not expecting, which was, a more personal reason why she made the decision to do it. And was even more crazier in that fact with the confrontation between her and Punk, where Punk basically, gave her flowers, right?
Yeah.
Acknowledging that she's good, acknowledging, all her accolades in the company. And then just, while he was hyping her up, decides to hit her back with a virtual low blow and call her husband a bum to her face. I was like, man, this is good. But the angle that they're spinning here, right, where Seth is hiding behind his wife, that's going to touch nerves with so many fans. And I already see it happening. There are so many people vocal about that. And it's like, oh, this works.
Yeah. Oh yeah. So I mean, it's probably one of the best kind of promos that. It's interesting because every time Punk is in the ring and he does a promo, people pay attention, people watch, and including Becky Lynch in this is kind of interesting because again, it's personal between her now because he's talking shit about Seth Rollins and her husband and their family. This, and that. So, obviously, while watching the promo, you hear a lot of they're in Paris, though. The fans are going fucking crazy, first of all. So shout out to the Paris fans.
That's a good crowd.
They're probably, honestly, in my opinion, probably the best crowd besides the Scotland crowd, right? The Scottish crowd is pretty amazing. Also, next to them would probably be like Australia, all the European crowds in general, right? But anyway,
they put us to shame.
They put Americans to shame, and I always say that. I was like, the U.S. is horrible when it comes to, and don't get me wrong, not all cities are horrible, right? Sometimes we do get some cities that do get into the matches and the chants and whatnot, but it's nothing like France where they're fucking singing for AJ Styles and they have every little beautiful. Every little nuance or thing for each wrestler. They know their songs. They know, what to cheer, when to cheer it, etc. like that. When they're yeeting, when they're yaying, it's crazy. But anyways, going back to the Becky Lynch and Becky Lynch and CM Punk promo, most, I would say at least 50% of the time you're hearing AJ Lee in the background, right?
Yeah.
Because again, Becky Lynch is, talking down to CM Punk. Punk doesn't want anything to do with it. He wants to get out of there. But again, she's like, no, you're gonna fucking listen, and this is gonna we're gonna do this, right? So again, AJ Lee chants in the background. She finally starts smacking up on CM Punk. That I was just like, oh, okay. I was like, I wonder if he's gonna react to this like Randy Orton, right? Because if that was Randy Orton, we all know that she wouldn't have stayed standing at the end of that.
Oh, right? Of course not.
Or maybe even a Baron Corbin, because Baron Corbin gave her the end of days back in 2019.
She didn't learn her lesson, did she?
Yeah, definitely not. So Punk at the end of that is saying, your husband's gonna regret cashing in on me, and you're gonna regret putting your hands on me. And the crowd is still fucking going crazy, right? So Punk leaves, Becky Lynch is still trying to cut CM Punk down on his way out, saying, just get out of here, blah, blah, talking about his nut sweat and everything like that from Clash in Paris when she gave him the low blow. and everything like that, saying
I
that
wouldn't
he
even call
stands.
that a low blow. I would not call that a low blow because like it's been all over TikTok and
Yeah,
there's people that's making these weird TikTok videos and they're like AJ Lee's pissed at Becky grabbing CM's
yeah,
junk. But
yeah,
then when you actually look at the video, her fist is not kind of closed. So it kind of looks like
yes,
she's cupping his thing and it's like, interesting.
yeah,
People are really trying to bait AJ Lee to come back. If there's no plans for her to come back, people are baiting her to come back because I think like what when they close when not that when they close out Raw, but like when
hmm,
Punk had his interaction with Adam Pearce backstage, making reference to where SmackDown is going to be this
yeah,
Friday.
yeah,
Um, there were so many people's reactions where they're like, "Please don't let him go to Rhea. They don't want Rhea Ripley to back Punk." Even though
yeah.
like we know, like Rhea has been vocal about what happened to Punk and how she was upset about that, and
Yeah,
I
there's been
mean,
kind of a few hints here and there between like some sort of alliance between Rhea also, but not just like on TV, but on social media also. Like she's been
yeah.
kind of verbal that she wanted Punk to win the championship or stay the champion after SummerSlam. So
Yeah.
it's been interesting, and that little backstage thing before the actual the actual back and forth between him and Becky Lynch. I think they're setting that up as a backup just in case AJ Lee doesn't happen. Um,
Yeah.
but we'll see. I don't know. Again, what are your thoughts on the whole Rhea thing happening? If let's just say, for instance, AJ Lee doesn't, appear on SmackDown this Friday, and Rhea, like, will this be fun to watch?
I mean, if it's Rhea, if it's Rhea, I would say yeah.
Yeah,
Rhea does bring an aesthetics to the women's division, and
yeah,
she's been primarily focused for a while chasing the women's world championship for a while. It's time to give her something else to kind of step away from.
hmm,
So if AJ doesn't want to make a return, if she still wants to stay retired and kind of stay in the background, because technically most people don't know. Yeah, she retired from in-ring competition, but she has been involved in WWE. She has been involved in other promotions outside of WWE. So
hmm,
she's been behind the scenes. But um, Rhea would be okay. I just think a lot of fans would be disappointed because fans are making it very vocal. They want AJ. So it
yeah,
wouldn't be like a slap to the face to Rhea. It's just more of like they want to see AJ back, and plus it would be a bonus because it would be husband and wife versus a set of husband and wife. Why not? Like
yeah, yeah.
we've
I think.
had
Go ahead. Sorry.
no, I was gonna say like we had mixed tag team matches with husband, wife, boyfriend, girlfriend, fiance type things, right? The
Hmm.
Miz and Maurice, and then John
Yeah.
Cena and Nikki Bella and Daniel
Mm,
Bryan and Brie and
Brie
the
Bella,
Miz.
whoever.
Shout out to the Miz.
Yeah,
Shout out to
yeah.
the
Shout out to the
Miz.
Miz for having a hot wife, also, by the way.
Yeah, I
Right.
mean, it's been those things, but it's never the dynamic has never been like this because there's
Yeah.
real heat between Seth and Punk. And also
Hmm.
that heat is going to carry because Becky's married to Seth. Why wouldn't a woman support her husband in what he
Yeah.
does?
Correct.
The fact that they're in no man's land. They're kind of like this is like Jeff Hardy and Matt Hardy 2.0.
Hmm.
Like they have this bitterness, but it's gone far beyond being
Yeah.
professional because they just love to dig at each other and throw those little things in there. Sometimes I wonder if Triple H maybe can't grow his hair back because he's too busy pulling it out when people are crossing lines. And,
For real.
I mean, that's just my thoughts on it.
Yeah, well, definitely, we're gonna have to see. I think this is going to be one of the most anticipated SmackDowns ever, and not just
Mm-hmm.
the most anticipated SmackDown ever, but one of the biggest returns that we've seen over the last 10 years. Obviously, right? I mean,
Oh yeah,
obviously the CM Punk return was huge, right? Him coming back. But the thing is, CM Punk had already returned in another company, right? So we knew that he was,
yeah.
we knew once he left that other company that there was a chance that it could happen. I just didn't think it was going to happen as quickly as it did, right? I thought, okay, CM Punk's, out of AEW, he's gonna retire. He's gonna, be gone for another year. Maybe we'll see him next year. Nope, it was very quick. Things happen pretty quickly. Literally, he gets fired July what 2022, or was it 22 or
24.
23? I'm sorry.
No, it's 2023, I believe it was.
I'm sorry, yeah, 2023. He gets fired after All In. You know what I mean? He gets let go after their biggest event, which probably wouldn't have sold as much if he wasn't there. By the way, and it was at Wembley Stadium. And then secondly, again, like I said, 3 months later, he shows up, at one of WWE's big four events, right? We again didn't think it was going to happen. It happens. Could have this happened?
It was beautiful.
Yeah, no, it was beautiful to return. Could this have happened a lot sooner? I would say yes, probably. I'm sure there has been talks of AJ Lee returning, right? It just, again, Punk, ended up getting injured, a couple of times after returning, right? So it's not like, like, hey, he once he hurt that tricep and he was out for a while. He came back, and he had that badass feud with Drew McIntyre last year, right? Which I thought that was going to happen then. You know what I mean? I thought, with all the McIntyre trolling of AJ Lee, right? You feel like it should have happened at some point during that. But again, like, now that we're seeing Becky Lynch and Seth Rollins, I feel like it does make the most sense because they're a power couple. CM Punk and AJ Lee, they never made their relationship public while they were in WWE. I mean, people knew they were together, right? But it wasn't really like made public until after both of them left the company, basically, where people actually were like, oh yeah, Punk and AJ Lee are married in real life, so I think this is going to be huge if it does happen, man. I really can appreciate what AJ Lee did, and I kind of wanted to get into AJ Lee accolades, right? I don't know if that's something you want to talk about.
Yeah, no, because I'd like, in order for my daughter to, because like, I'll share this with you guys. My daughter watches wrestling with me, and she just got into it, so like a lot of history she doesn't know, she's learning, and so when she watched Raw with me, and then after Punk made it clear where SmackDown's going to be, talking to Adam Pearce, and I was all I had my reactions. I was like, oh yeah, hopefully I was praying. Like, oh, my daughter looks, she goes, who's AJ? And I'm like, oh, that's CM Punk's wife, and she's like, oh, does she wrestle? I'm like, so boom, YouTube, we're going through everything, and like my daughter instantly became a fan of AJ Lee. Like, she loved that whole odd personality of being a psycho and the whole ordeal, like during that time where Punk was champion and Daniel Bryan was pursuing the title and Kane was involved, and then that the mixed match where it was her and Punk versus Kane and Daniel Bryan, and she freaking kissed Kane, and then my daughter's just like, do you think CM Punk was mad about that? I'm like, no. Like, he's a professional. He's not that. He's not mad at all. But she, like, everything. Even she laughed when AJ Lee was running as GM, and she ended up slapping Paul Heyman because Paul Heyman asked to marry her. And that was when Punk flipped full heel and was going heel in his days as champion. And I was like, so she is praying that AJ shows up this Friday because she wants to watch AJ in the ring.
Yeah.
Me, I'm just like, I think us fans, we remember a lot of what AJ's done. We remember how good she was in the ring, how good she was with her promos, like the way that she carried herself, the things that she did. I mean, God, what pipe bombs? Like, she dropped pipe bombs.
I mean, she was one of the I would say one of the first females to throw out a pipe bomb, right? Obviously, when she was cutting down the Total Divas cast, that was one of the bigger one of the bigger oh shit moments, right? And I was actually watching that video earlier, like somebody had posted it on Twitter. I was like, oh man, I gotta rewatch this, man. I'm like, damn, dude. I was like, if you think that Becky Lynch cutting down Nikki Bella recently, about John Cena was bad, like you should have heard the shit that AJ Lee was telling her 10 years ago, right? Obviously, before they all retired. But it's definitely she was definitely different in an era that needed something different. I'll tell you guys that much, right? I would say between 2005 and 2015, that 10-year span, they were transitioning in an era where they they were still trying to do the diva thing, but also, you know, there were some, you know, some female wrestlers that were coming in that were definitely a little bit different, right? Obviously, AJ Lee being one of them. You know, Edge's wife, Beth Phoenix, you know, another, right? You know, just not your typical, you know, attractive blonde. I wouldn't say bimbo, right? But attractive blonde female that is, you know, a centerfold cover, right?
Right.
You know, we definitely we got different stuff, you know, during that era. It was interesting to watch. AJ Lee definitely was, in my opinion, probably the breakout person of that era when it came to the female division, right? Because again, like, you know, she was good at she was good on the mic, she was good at the ring, in the ring, right? Obviously, multiple time Divas champion, which I'll go over a few of her accolades. We can discuss her history here, but she was just interesting to watch. And the thing is, like, she wasn't like, it's not like she was a big, you know, person in the ring, right? You know, she's probably like what, Alexa Bliss stature, maybe even a little bit smaller than that. You know, I remember her being very small and petite, you know, and she was going up against girls that were definitely a lot taller, a lot bigger at the time, and you know, she was getting the wins over them, right?
Yeah, which is pretty insane. I love her. You know, one of the submissions that she used, man. Oh my god, it was perfect because she was short, she was dainty, but she was fierce, and that was the thing that, you know, I guess for myself, watching, you know, professional wrestling, I gravitated towards her, whether she was a face or a heel. But you know, it was because the way that she got her victories, it wasn't like you would look at it and be like, oh yeah, you know, that's BS, or you know, it didn't feel unnatural for someone like her, like the way that they booked her, the way that she went over. I mean, it made sense that someone that small could actually obtain a victory, say on someone like Beth Phoenix, right? Like, so I think that was one of the things that I really liked, you know, about her in-ring abilities. You know, like you said, the promos that she cut, she was one of the first to really drop pipe bombs, and she brutalized the Total Divas cast. So God, I mean, I'll tell anyone after this podcast is over, if you want to know, Google AJ Lee and, you know, the Total Divas. You'll find every time that she's roasted them, including the one that I saw this morning, where she dressed up as Nikki Bella because they dressed up as her and made fun of her. So she. And I was like, oh my god, I remember those days. She would do the craziest things. But I think, you know, there's only one fear that I have regarding AJ's return if she does return. Only one fear, and that fear is the typical thing that WWE tends to do, where they bring back someone of a legend status to feed them to a newer talent to get the newer talent over. Even though Becky's been around for a while, she's still on the career path in WWE. She's still leagues behind AJ, and I just wouldn't want to see that.
It's funny that we say that you say she's leagues behind AJ, because technically Becky has more accolades than AJ does as far as championships. You know what I mean?
Championships, yes.
I could see what you mean, though. You know what I mean?
Yeah, we're talking about time put in, and during a transition. Like, for instance, right? Like, a lot of people, you know, you give credit to Charlotte Flair, you give credit to Rhea Ripley and Becky Lynch and Bayley, right? Because of this whole transition from, you know, pull hair and slapping to actually like fighting, putting on, you know, like even being able to gain that main event stature and be able to hold that moniker up. And I will always credit those women for it, you know? But in order for those women to make that happen, you needed Paige, you needed AJ Lee, you needed Beth Phoenix, you needed them to start to break away from the Terry Reynolds, from, you know, what's their names?
Stacy Keibler, your Kelly Kellys,
Alicia Fox, and all of them. Like, you needed AJ Lee, you needed Paige to build that bridge to where Charlotte and them can come in, where people are not going to look at them with a sex appeal, but look at them as wrestlers. So that's where I give AJ, like, you know, her flowers.
No, very true. You know, she never, you know, had to kind of derogatize herself, you know, to get over or to get attention. I mean, yes, people thought she was a, you know, attractive, a beautiful woman, right? But it's not something like, hey, like I wasn't, you know, messaging my friends and being like, damn, like, did you see AJ Lee? You know, like, you know,
she never did a bra and panties match. She never did none of that. You know, it was just It was just her. And so people, they gravitated to her personality, they gravitated to her character. Some found her smoking hot and was just lusting over her, but it was never put in your face like how Vince did it in the 90s, where he's like, sex appeal, you're gonna do a bra and panties match, and we're gonna have you go and do Playboy and all that other stuff, right? She never had to do that. It just naturally came to her. So I give her that. That's what I mean by it. So it's not to like, crap all over Becky's, like you said, you understand where I'm coming from, but for other people to understand, it's not to crap on Becky's accolades, not to crap on what she's done and what she's done for the women's division, but when you kind of like start putting people down and the longevity that they've been in the company and what they've done along the way, AJ is still ahead of Becky. Yeah. So I feel like that, if they wanted to put Becky on a higher pedestal, right, this would be one of those victories that would put her over. Kind of like when they kind of fed, what's her name? What's that lady's name again? Trish Stratus.
Yeah.
They fed her. Like, she's taking losses to the newer talent to put them over. Same with Lita. She's taking losses to. So that's why I feel like that's going to happen. But like my inner, love for wrestling guy is like, don't you dare make AJ lose to this woman, type of thing. So
right.
I'm really in the storyline, man. If you can't tell, I'm really in the storyline. I'm loving it. This is probably
everybody is, man. It's literally the most talked about thing all week so far. Like anytime you log into like Facebook or X or Twitter, whatever you want to call it, any social media that you follow as far as wrestling goes, that's like their top storyline of the week. I mean, yes, there's other stuff happening, like the AEW HBO Max deal with their pay-per-views. Obviously, WrestlePalooza happening the same day as All Out, right? Which again, I don't know if you guys know, if you've heard it or not, but AEW announced that they are moving the time up, so their pay-per-view is going to be at 3 p.m. now, I believe. So they're
shots fired.
I feel like so there's going to be an overrun, though, I would say, right? So people, but the thing with AEW is, a lot of their top talent are out right now. Swerve's out; it has to get surgery. Will Ospreay's out, has to get surgery. Like, who do you have left? It's like, yes, Adam Page is your champion, right? Sasha Banks or Mercedes is still the TBS champion, but she's not elevating. She's not making, the stories interesting like what we're seeing with like Becky Lynch and, CM Punk, right?
Yeah.
Or like what we're seeing in the female division, right? Nikki Bella comes back, right? She's already had a couple of good matches and a few decent feuds. And WWE, even though, Nikki Bella has your crap that happened, before she came back, right? People are not paying attention to that. They're not going out there and booing the shit out of her, right? They're genuinely they're happy that she's back. And, the matches that she has been in and that she's put on, they're actually decent, minus, this last one with Becky Lynch, could have been a little bit better. I don't know if you recall the spot.
It could have been. Yeah, man, it could have been. Here's the thing, right?
Yeah.
The finish was what I thought was just crap.
I hated the finish. Yeah, the finish was
just super weird. Like, this is Nikki Bella. She has her accolades, as we could speak on that too.
Yeah.
So for her taking an actual loss, like being like taking a pin with the manhandle slam, or tapping to the disarmer, you can't tarnish Nikki Bella's reputation anymore, because she is at that level. She's not in the company trying to grow herself. She's grown in the company. We all know who she is. So taking a straight loss would have been okay in my book. Even, I don't want to see Becky lose the Intercontinental Championship. I think she's doing great with the title. I think she's giving it the recognition that it deserved, that it, to all those who might get mad, the title was not getting its recognition when it was on Lyra Valkyria. Sorry to say it. Mm-hmm. It was not even really feeling like a mid-card title for the women's division. Until it went in Becky's hands, and Becky is making something of that belt. So shout out to title, or the women's WWE title. She pursued the Intercontinental title, and she's helped building its reputation. And by right, hopefully they don't do anything stupid and scrap this belt, because it would have been all for nothing. But I know people wanted to see Nikki Bella win, to win the Intercontinental title, a belt that she obviously couldn't win back in the day because it did not exist.
Yeah.
But the way that they had it end, just like all these things that we're doing, you can't kick out of that backslide pin.
Yeah, and that's, you know what? That's not the first time Becky has done it. I think she did it recently, like at one of the other events with Lyra Valkyria. I think that's how she retained. It was just kind of like you said, like that slide out, reversal, pin or whatever. That's kind of like, it looks weird when you watch it. Like
Yeah.
I still really can't make much of it, but I'm just like, she's only done it a couple of times, so. And again, like, I mean, the fact that they can't get out of it, obviously it's something, right? Something that to look out for if you're a female in that division. But
Well, and it's just weird because they can't get out of it when it's like at the climactic point of the finish of the match. But if it was like done, if it's done normally and in the middle of the match, apparently you can kick out of it. So it's one of those odd moves in WWE where it's just like it only has greatness to it if it's applied at a certain point in the match, which is at the end of the match to get the victory. But used normally, it won't work, type of thing. That's like, huh? That does not make sense.
Yeah, like if you just do it normally, like if you're hooking the arms from the back and you bring them down, they're always gonna kick out. So it's like,
I don't get it.
Is what it is. So yeah, let's get into accolades, right? And like, hard to believe that AJ Lee, and I'm just from what I've been reading, she was only on the main roster for 6 years.
Yeah, it's a short time, dude.
So she was very impactful in the time that she was there, from 2009 to 2015 is when she ended her career in the company. Let's see, she signed up as as far as she was in FCW also, right? Pre NXT. Yeah. So or pre Black and Gold era, even though colors were still the same, right? She started in WWE 2009. So she was in FCW from 2009 to 2011. Again, I think she made it to the top as far as their I think she was I think they had a Divas champion. So it says, or maybe not. Hold on. Yeah. AJ lost the queen of. Okay, it says AJ lost the queen of FC title to Rosa Mendes. Rosa Mendes. Does anyone remember Rosa Mendes? What the heck?
Oh my god, that's been a long time since I heard that name.
Okay, so check this out. So then AJ then defeated Naomi for the FCW Divas Championship in December of, again, I think it was 2009 or 2010. But anyway, so she moved on to the main roster 2011. So again, she was in developmental from 2009 to 2011. That's 3 years, guys, in developmental. Yep. And then she moved over to I believe SmackDown. It says AJ made her, and this is Wikipedia, by the way, so don't slam me for it. I'm gonna just read from it. AJ made her main roster debut on May 27, 2011, on the episode of SmackDown as a part of tag team with Caitlyn, right, referring to themselves as the Chick Busters, along with their mentor Natalia, right? God, Natalia's been there forever, man. My God.
Yeah, I'll speak on that at the end with Natalia because there's something I want to talk about with her, but we'll do that at the end.
Yeah, we can talk about that. They feuded with the trio of Alicia Fox, Tamina Snuka. We can't forget about her, right? I'm putting up the pictures. Also, Alicia Fox, who still wrestles by under the name Victoria Crawford. She's in TNA right now. So if you didn't know that, she is that. Also, Rosa Mendes and Rosa Mendes for 2 months they feuded. In late July, AJ began a brief storyline on NXT Redemption as the girlfriend of Hornswoggle and feuded with Maxine. Different character, by the way, not the current Maxine we know. Meanwhile, on SmackDown, she was attacked by Natalia, who turned on her protege and allied with Beth Phoenix. Again, these are names that we were mentioning earlier. To form the Divas of Doom. Definitely don't remember that.
I remember that. That was a killer team. Natalia and Beth, man.
Oh, they're best friends in real life, by the way.
Yeah.
Them being both from Canada, Canadian. I believe Natalia convinced Beth Phoenix to get into the company. By the way,
I believe so. She was scouted by Natalia.
Yeah, if I wasn't mistaken, there was a friendship there or something behind the scenes. But anyways, AJ and Caitlyn repeatedly lost the Divas of Dooms over and over the following months, upsetting Caitlyn. So this is before we even have the female tag team championships, guys. So again, when we're talking about like trailblazing, for the women's division, this is stuff that's already been going on way before they debut those those women's tag championships. So by November 2011, AJ was featured in an on-screen relationship with Daniel Bryan, which that's pretty, not forgettable if you watched it, right?
I remember that.
Brian Lloyd Danielson is his real name, who won the World Heavyweight Championship the following month and began portraying a villainous character. Although AJ expressed romantic interest in Bryan, he did not reciprocate. On the July 13th, 2012 episode of SmackDown, she was accidentally knocked down by Big Show during Bryan's title defense and was taken out on a stretcher as part of the storyline. She returned on February 3rd and continued to support him. And at WrestleMania 28, oh my God, I can't believe I'm saying that. WrestleMania 28 on April 1st, after AJ kissed Bryan before his match, he was defeated by Sheamus in 18 seconds, losing the world title. We all remember that, by the way.
I remember that.
Bryan attributed the loss to AJ and ended their relationship. AJ made repeated attempts to reconcile, but Bryan rejected her. She later attacked Natalya and Caitlyn after they tried to comfort her, marking the beginning of a new phase for her character, portrayed as increasingly unstable, or I like to say bipolar, I guess, right?
Yeah.
Bipolar AJ Lee.
God, she played that so good.
AJ turned her affections to Bryan's rival and WWE champion at the time, CM Punk, as well as Kane at No Way Out on June 17th. AJ interfered in a triple threat match for the WWE championship between Punk, Bryan, and Kane, helping Punk retain his title by distracting Kane. As Bryan and Punk's feud progressed, AJ was announced as the special guest referee for their title match at Money in the Bank. Damn, dude, this is taking me back, man. Bryan made advances on AJ in an attempt to influence her. However, she focused her attention on Punk, enraged by his disinterest on the July episode of Raw, which, if you guys, obviously for people that didn't watch, she tried getting his attention backstage. She started crying in front of him, trying to get his attention, right?
I remember that. That was so bad. She cried. He's like trying to act like he's trying to console her and everything. And he's like, as soon as he says, don't cry, she just stops and just looks at him with blinking eyes. I'm like, damn, she plays the bipolar role really good.
Yep. And the role of master and puppet, very, very good. Also. So again, she interfered in his match and shoved him along with Bryan through a ringside table. After they made amends, she proposed to him, but Bryan countered with a proposal of his own. Punk rejected her offer and she slapped both men. At Money in the Bank on July 15th, as referee, AJ counted Punk's pinfall on Bryan, resulting in a successful title defense for Punk. As Punk celebrated over a fallen Bryan, AJ was left alone. The next night, Bryan proposed to her again, and she accepted. Okay. So that I really don't remember, honestly.
I remember that because it was weird. This was like the only time, if you really wanted to know if there was anything going on between Phil and AJ, you kind of saw it there, because when she agreed to marry Bryan, this was where people saw Punk turn. He was trying to I guess convey it in her head that Bryan really doesn't care about her. And then people started to wonder, like, why do you care, Punk? And so it started to show there was something there.
Yeah, this was good stuff back in the day, by the way. So, okay, let's move on from that. During the exchange of vows at Raw 1000, that's crazy because I think we're already on Raw 2500 already.
Yeah.
So, this was crazy, man. AJ announced that WWE Chairman Vince McMahon had offered her the job of Raw General Manager and left Bryan at the altar. So again, Bryan and her were going to get married. And you guys know that Vince was infamous with these wedding disasters. They were always good ratings, and they were always a chuckle to laugh at. So her on-screen authority role began on July 30th. Where she alleged that Bryan only wanted the legal leverage to have her confirmed and forced him to undergo his own psychological evaluation. Yes, I remember this. Oh,
you're right. We got Titus in the house. Shout out to Titus. And there was it was drama, but it wasn't cringy drama. This was like funny TV. You had to see and laugh.
No, it was ridiculous. So again, AJ continued to extract revenge on both Bryan and Punk throughout her tenure, denying their requests and booking them in matches against their wishes. On August 27th, hey, but this is where we got, I guess, not just the Yes movement, but I think like the Kane and Daniel Bryan, infamous tag team. Also, I think that's what came from.
Yeah, when they were sent to anger,
they were like, yes, no, yes, no, yes, no. That basically came from that. Also, I believe.
Hands down, my favorite, cut during the time where both Daniel Bryan and Kane had to go to anger management was when they were at the diner.
Yes.
And freaking Kane was like just throwing all these psychotic things about killing the cook and all this other stuff, right?
Yeah. Uh-huh.
And then the therapist, when he looks at Kane, he's like, "You're joking, right, Kane?" And Kane's like, "What do you mean? My name is," and I forgot what name that he gave himself as the waiter, but
the devil's something or whatever. I don't know.
The devil's favorite demon, the kid with the goat mask.
Yeah.
Daniel yelled at the kid with the goat mask, and it was the therapist's son. He's a goat in the school play.
Oh my God. Yeah, that was fun stuff, man. I really enjoyed it, honestly. So
it was.
Let me see. Let me continue here.
Memory lane with this.
Memory lane. So on August 27th and September 24th, she was involved in separate altercations with Vicky Guerrero and Paul Heyman, in which she attacked them. Okay, the interesting. AJ was reprimanded by the board of directors, and the two demanded the general manager position for themselves, deeming her too childish. AJ then stepped down from her GM role duties on October 22nd, becoming embroiled in scandal storyline with John Cena. So she kind of got involved with everybody. At this point, so if there's one thing we can say about AJ Lee, at the time in her era, right? She definitely got involved with like a lot of the top stars and big names at the time: Kane, CM Punk, Daniel Bryan, and now John Cena, right? Let's see. Vicky Guerrero alleged that they had an affair and presented various materials over the next months to support her claim. AJ and Cena denied the accusations and eventually formed a relationship, though Cena grew reluctant due to her behavior. Meanwhile, Cena feuded with Vicky Guerrero's client Dolph Ziggler over Ziggler's Money in the Bank contract. During their match at TLC on December 16th, AJ turned heel by interfering and pushing Cena off a ladder and causing him to lose. Wow, okay.
Yep, I remember that.
So she solidified a relationship with Ziggler the next night on Raw, and they teamed together against Cena and Guerrero in the main event. Like if I fucking remembered Cena tagging with Vicky Guerrero, dude. Like
I remember that. Yeah. I remember that. That was funny as hell.
So, which ended in a disqualification after the debuting Big E Langston attacked Cena on her behalf, which again, we remember this trio. Subsequently, accompanied by Langston as her bodyguard, she explained that Cena had toyed with her emotions and broke her heart, and she helped Ziggler break him. Oh my God. In March 2013, AJ storyline rivalry with her ex-boyfriend Daniel Bryan was reignited with when they traded insults backstage. She and Langston assisted Ziggler in victories over Bryan and his tag team partner Kane. Like I said, Kane and Bryan were already a thing, which led to Ziggler and Langston losing to them in a WWE Tag Team Championship match at WrestleMania 29 on April 7th. Despite her interference, the next night on Raw, she and Langston accompanied Ziggler as he cashed in his Money in the Bank contract on Alberto Del Rio to win the heavyweight championship, which got a huge pop, by the way. That was probably one of the pops as far as cash-ins. Let's see, her Diva Championship and retirements. Okay, so AJ won a Battle Royal of April 22nd, 2013 to become the number one contender to Caitlyn's WWE Championship, right? Or Divas Championship. I missed that belt, by the way. Caitlyn soon began a storyline where she received gifts from a secret admirer. On June 10th, after setting up Langston to pose as the admirer, AJ revealed it to be a mind game and berated Caitlyn and left her in tears. 6 days later at Payback, AJ defeated Caitlyn to capture her first Divas champion. Damn, dude. Like, now that I think about it, man, she was kind of psychotic, man. Like, she did a lot of like dirty things.
Dude, like that rivalry between her and Caitlyn, man. Oh my god. When they had, I believe it was the contract signing for for the match, and you had Natalia out there, you had Naomi out there, and then AJ apparently posing as somebody that was like, she was catfishing Caitlyn.
Yeah.
And Caitlyn was like opening up about her real thoughts about Naomi and her real thoughts about Natalia. And then AJ just started reading it off the phone, things that Caitlyn said bad about them. I was like, damn. Man, AJ, you're so bad.
She is. She was, dude. She did a lot of dirty things. She basically betrayed everybody that she associated with.
Pretty much, man. You could not trust AJ.
Yeah, she could not trust her because she did it for herself, and maybe she felt love for some of these characters, but it's just like, damn, like it made for good TV at the time, though. It made Raw or whatever show she was a part of very watchable. But yeah, she did defeat Caitlyn for her first. And the cool part about that is they came up together, right? In FCW, pre NXT, right before that happened. They were, they knew each other. They were wrestling with each other. Prior to this, so they already had a history with each other, right? Let's see. While she continued to mock Caitlyn, they participated in the first ever in-ring contract signing for a Divas Championship bout. Wow, at Money in the Bank. So on July 14th, AJ won their rematch, but later in the show caused Ziggler to lose his own rematch for the World Championship. She hit his opponent Alberto Del Rio with her title belt to protect him from further head injury, prompting a disqualification. Angered by her unwanted action, Ziggler ended their relationship. She exacted revenge by costing him another match, then attacked him with Langston. On August 2nd, Langston was banned from attending her matches. However, AJ again retained the title from Caitlyn, who was betrayed by Layla. Layla, who remembers Layla, guys? Gee.
Lay cool.
Caitlyn and Ziggler ultimately joined to defeat AJ and Langston in a mixed tag match at SummerSlam, August 18th. Let's see. On August 26th, AJ interrupted the cast of Total Divas. Here we go. During a match segment and insulted them. She later vowed to defeat every member of the cast and enlisted Tamina Snuka as her bodyguard. Okay, I remember this.
I remember that.
Yeah, throughout the remainder of the year, AJ successfully defended the championship against the trio of Brie Bella, Naomi, Natalia, and Nia Champion. Again, these are all Hall of Famers, by the way, at this point.
Yeah.
Brie Bella at both Battleground and Hell in a Cell, and Natalia at TLC. So, she's defeating all these throughout all these pay-per-views. She also captained a team at Survivor Series in a traditional 7-on-7 elimination tag match against the entire cast, which her team lost, unfortunately. In January 2014, AJ became the longest reigning Divas champion at the time after fending off the title contenders Cameron and Natalia, which, again, who remembers Cameron, by the way?
Funkadactyls.
Funkadactyls. AJ renewed her on-screen rivalry with SmackDown GM Vicky Guerrero, who forced her to defend the Divas Championship in a 14-woman match at WrestleMania 30, guys. WrestleMania 30. AJ won the match on April 6th, marking the first time the championship had been contested for a WWE flagship event, which is crazy, right? Again, this is like, when, the women's, title was barely breaking out, or at least that version, again, like, of the title. I'm not talking about like the, the WWE Women's Championship that, Trish and Lita held, right? We're talking about the, Divas Championship. So that's pretty crazy, right? The next night on Raw, AJ challenged debuting. So after winning a 14-woman, match at WrestleMania 30, the next night on Raw, Paige debuts and she loses the title to Paige in an impromptu match and was defeated, ending her 295-day reign as champion, right? I thought it was over 300 days, but I could be wrong on that. Obviously, it says 200.